Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Abby Elliott about FX's The Bear, streaming exclusively on Hulu. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, it's pretty crazy. Like, the show's finally out right now. Like, has it hit you that people are going to be able to see, are finally able to see it?
It's so wild. And honestly, like, I really like that they released everything at once, because I feel like following this story, you get so hooked. And I don't know, now with how, privileged we are with streaming TV, I get really frustrated when I have to wait a week for another episode.
I feel like I agree with that. I feel like there is a place for both. Like, I'm okay. Like, I'm a big TV guy. I like both.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay with both. But I love the idea of not having to wait. I agree with that. Now, listen, this show is... it's been called, a dark comedy. It's called a dramedy. I mean, there is some moments, I guess, where there's some laughs, but like, this is like an intense watch and everything. So I'm just curious, like, did you get that vibe when we were reading the script for this and everything? Like, it has the comedic moments, but this is just like intense about a lot of what Carmine's going through and the family's going through. What was going through your mind? It's pretty complex.
Yeah, when I first signed on, I mean, that's really what initially attracted me to the role and to the project, was just that, like, it was kind of labeled as a comedy, but it was vague. And then reading it, it was just so clear that there was just so much emotional depth and, heart to the story. And this is also, kind of a dream job for me. This is exactly what I've been wanting to do, to be able to do something grounded and, just a little more relatable and real, especially after the last couple of years with what the world has gone through. I think, watching aspirational stuff, like, there's a time and place for that. But I think, right now people just want to relate to each other and relate to stories that, hit home. And I feel like there are so many elements to this show that people can really relate to, and whether they've been there or they know someone who has. That's what attracted me to the project. So.
And it's interesting too, because you talk a lot, I mean, the food component, the restaurant component, Carmen moves back home to Chicago for the family sandwich restaurant. I mean, it's in one sense, it's like, it's there, it's like the food, and I love the details and seeing everything. But at the end of the day, if you think about it, it's not about food at all. If you think about it, it's about way more than that. Have you ever thought about that? It's like Tale of Two Shows a little bit there.
Totally. It's this beautiful story about family and grief and, ambition. Yep. And, what it's like to get knocked down and to get back up, and how hard that is, and how much pressure we put on ourselves. And then, throughout is woven just like these beautiful shots of sizzling meat, and, just you can like smell the show. Yeah. And I feel like, that's kind of what when I scroll on Instagram, I look at food primarily. And so I feel like it has that kind of like addictive element of like I can just like taste and smell the show, but then you're also getting this really beautiful story.
I don't feel like there's that many like food shows or movies. Like but when they come out, I watch them all right away. Are you hoping that the FX's The Bear on Hulu is going to be one of those shows that maybe kind of is like the gateway to way more food shows? Because I want to watch them all.
Absolutely, I do too, and I really love watching cooking shows, and I love the Stanley Tucci Italian show where he's in Italy. It's hard to, like, I've never seen a fictional show that, revolves around food that is, good. I feel like they're few and far between. So, there's definitely a void. And I hope that this show fills that.
Absolutely. Your character, Sugar, I mean, there's a lot of characters in the same boat in terms of, there's a lot of challenges, a lot happening with the characters. Sugar's going through a lot with her brother, and Carmen doesn't get along with her husband. There's a disconnect there. There's like a lot happening for that character. So I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I mean, can you even what's the preparation and kind of mindset for a character that we meet her right away and there's so much kind of being thrown at her? There's no easy way out, so to speak. What's that like for you, Abby?
I think that Sugar is really just, she's grieving in her own way,
Yes.
which is trying to keep it together. And I personally really relate to that. Her way of grieving is order, is, making sure that Carmy's okay, that he's going to Al-Anon meetings, making sure that she's taking care of herself. Pete's supporting her. He's going to these meetings with her, and that's, whether it's working or not, that's how she wraps her head around, her brother's death.
Yeah.
And so I think, she thinks she's doing all the right things, and, time will heal. And I imagine she's very into inspiring quotes and self-help books and, doing the work, but it's also, there's more to it than that. And, so she's also going through her own internal pain.
Oh, absolutely. I just want to say Pete is my favorite character on the show because of his name, of course. I just want to say that.
Yes. Naturally.
No, it's so
good. Have to stick together.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so good though. And I'm just curious because one can make an argument, we established at the beginning of the show, the dramedy, dark comedy. I mean, this is a genre bending show, and looking at genre bending these days, I'm just curious because you've worked on a lot of things where it knew what it was, you know what I mean? It was comedy or it was drama, right? And do you feel like genre bending, Abby, just happens, or do you think it's premeditated? I feel like now it might be premeditated, but I don't think, in the 2000s, people just woke up in the morning, were like, I'm gonna make a comedy, horror, drama. I don't know if it was premeditated. You know what I mean?
If it was premeditated, totally. I don't think so. I mean, I think that was just such a natural show from the beginning, and you just people get tired of one thing, I think, and people want to watch real stories, and I think that's where the future of TV is headed. So
but even with this show too, some of the thriller horror, they're chopping onions and they're getting big things on things. You're almost oh my God, it's gonna fall. It's sometimes
you
those
feel
elements.
Something could happen at any moment.
Yes.
And a lot of things do. So
it is it's so crazy. In comedy, I don't think we're reinventing the wheel as well, but there's always the serious undertones in comedy, and it's been there. Some of my favorite sitcoms back in the day, in the 90s, there was always I go back, there's always the serious undertone, the episodes about certain important issues.
Yeah, the Jesse Spano,
Yeah, absolutely.
Role, and I think that
Sean joins a cult in Boy Meets World, a lot of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, is that kind of the comedy? Because I was asking your dad this yesterday about Maggie. Is that always been a thing? Do you think there's slapstick, but there's the serious undertones? What do you think about that?
I think that they actually did it more back then with sitcoms. I feel like now sitcoms are kind of in a different place of we're not really sure if we are still on board with them. And I just mean very, very general network shows. But I think, there definitely needs to be more serious undertones to comedies. And I think this show actually is more of a drama with comedic moments.
I agree 100%. Have you been tagged or commented? Anyone commented about chicken piccata at all yet? Has there been any comments about that?
People have asked me about the chicken piccata. Courtney Store, who's her sister, she made that and she did all the food for the show, and it looked
amazing.
I took 3 home just like in a Ziploc, and like in the van on the way back, I was just munching on it. It was so, so good.
It's so amazing. You look at a lot of the stuff you've done, like in, comedy, drama. You look at the, sketch comedy stuff. It's all storytelling. What is your favorite thing about being a storyteller, Abby?
Yeah, I mean, I think just playing real humans at this point. I obviously started in sketch comedy, and that was wonderful and great. And it was such a learning experience for me to be on SNL. But I think, essentially I really like playing someone that people kind of know, as opposed to, wackier sketch characters. So yeah, I think just relating to people and, making people feel less alone.
Absolutely. Do you feel like there's like misconceptions with like sketch comedy about like how hard it actually is? Because I do feel like I see people online who are like, oh, like I'm funny, I can improv, like I've done it before. Like I feel like there's like that misconception a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's hard to just be silly in front of a public audience. People
Absolutely.
Don't know, and try to connect and make them laugh. So yeah, it's definitely not easy. It's really challenging. And, for someone who, I mean, I was really young when I started, and I didn't have 10 years of like groundlings experience under my belt, and, doing wacky characters on stage and workshopping tons of things. And so, for me, it was a learning curve to try and like tap into that.
Yeah. And
impressions were really what I focused on, because I felt like, okay, these are people that, people know who they are. So, at least we'll have that to relate to, but,
yeah, you had some good ones. There were some good ones that I remember for sure.
Thanks. I haven't done any in so long, so please don't ask me.
No. It was pretty crazy, because I feel like, it's just unbelievable to see also what people have done after SNL. Like that's my favorite part about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the best part, in my opinion. You know what I mean? You watch them on SNL and then seeing, all the amazing projects like The Bear. That's the coolest thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, you learn so much at that show, and it's kind of like this just microcosm of how the entire industry works. And, you get your heart broken every week, and then the next week you have like an amazing victory and you're riding high for a little while. And then, the next week something else happens. And so it's just like,
sounds like life.
Coaster of life. Yeah. Totally.
Before we wrap up, getting back to The Bear, when people get a chance to watch it, because it's streaming now exclusively on Hulu, FX is The Bear, what are you hoping they get out of it takeaway wise?
I hope that they, feel a connection to some of the characters, and I hope that they, laugh and feel emotional. And, I think that people will be able to relate, whether they've, experienced death firsthand, this, and, the pressures of work. So I think just relating to the human experience.
It's one of the most real shows I've ever watched, which is amazing.
Okay.
No, I love it. It's so good. Abby, thank you so much for your time. This was so great chatting with you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. So it's a streaming exclusively now on Hulu. FX is The Bear. And where can people keep update, like Instagram and Twitter? They can follow you on social media, right? If they want to keep update with everything.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm Lil Cutie Forever. Lil. Lil. And I'm Elliott.Abby on Twitter.
Amazing. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative. For previous episodes, you're going to be able to catch Abby Elliott as Sugar in FX's The Bear, streaming exclusively now on Hulu. Until next time, this is Abby and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.